I really wanted to impress my boyfriend.
I was in a relationship with someone who I really cared for.
I was at a party, blacked out drunk.
Or I was riding the Max.
I went to a party recently and I had gotten through a really rough breakup.
I went to my friend's house just to hang out and have a fun night. We both liked each other and we were hanging out drunk at one of my friend's houses.
I really wanted to impress my boyfriend, so I would do anything that he asked me to do. I wouldn't use the word impress, rather please. I'm not sure if this is sexual assault or not either. Anyways, he wanted me to give him a blowjob, and I said that I wasn't comfortable with this, and he guilted me into doing it again and again until it became the norm. Is this sexual assault? I don't know. I guess I did it willingly after a while, but it didn't start out that way.
Last summer I was riding the Max and the train was flooded with drunk fans. An older man came up behind me and told me he thought I was beautiful, and then grabbed my butt. I was scared and uncomfortable. Luckily, his stop was next. I didn't think it was that big of a deal at first, but it could have turned into something much worse. I took a really long shower that night and still felt disgusting.
A friend of mine was sleeping in a bed with a boy. He thought she was asleep. The entire night he was touching her inappropriately, and she silently cried while he did it.
I was raped by two boys in the men's bathroom stall at a concert. They took turns forcing me to give them head while I cried. They laughed at me and I knew the boys well and felt unsafe reporting it.
My sophomore year of high school, I was in a relationship with someone who I really cared for. We were really good together in the beginning, but it slowly evolved into something that was dangerous. We would leave school all the time, but one day we got into a fight after we had left school. I walked away and he wanted to make sure everything was okay. He trapped me in a corner and forced me to say everything was fine. He then insisted on makeup sex and proceeded to grab my skirt and attempt to rape me. It took that and another instance of sexual assault in the relationship to realize that it wasn't healthy. He succeeded in manipulating me to feel like I deserved the abuse he was inflicting on me.
I was talking to this boy. We both liked each other and we were hanging out drunk at one of my friend's houses. We were watching a movie until he asked me if I wanted to have sex, and I told him I didn't want to. I wanted to wait. Then he raped me anyway. I was very drunk, so I don't remember a large portion of it. He apologized for pressuring me into something I wasn't ready for.
I think one of the hardest things about my experience was how I viewed myself after being sexually assaulted. The saddest thing is that I know it's wrong too, but it's hard not to blame myself. I should have known. I missed my period for a month after that night, but I kept it a secret and tried to fill in the gaps and black parts of my memory to see if I had missed anything and whether there was any chance he had raped me. I drove to a drugstore and bought a pregnancy test by myself, and the woman working there who helped me check out looked at me with sad eyes. I waited in my car in the parking lot for the results and cried. I have never felt so alone in my life.
I was at a party, blacked out drunk, and all I remember was a guy getting on top of me after locking the bathroom doors. And then I don't remember anything after that. I felt super weird about it a few weeks after, but I didn't really tell anyone because I wanted to act like it didn't happen.
I want to be able to tell my other close friends about my experience. I just don't know how to say it or how to bring it up. I'm not gonna lie, I do blame myself a lot because I know that if I hadn't said anything back, it probably wouldn't have happened. It's been something that has been really hard for me to deal with, and I'm honestly still denying it ever happened. I can never press charges. My biggest fear is that it will get out because I don't want anyone to know. I just don't really know what to do, and I never want this to happen to anyone.
I know that friends of mine and myself have experienced being groped or touched inappropriately at parties, whether it be boys grabbing our waists or butts or accidentally fondling my boobs. I think it's very wrong, but I don't usually feel comfortable speaking up against it because it's very subtle, although it makes me feel very uncomfortable.
I went to my friend's house just to hang out and have a fun night. I had hooked up with this boy in the past, but never taken it as far as sex. The boy kept asking me to go into the other room with him and wanted to hook up. I said no and left the room, but he followed me into the other room and we proceeded to hook up. He kept asking me to have sex with him, but I said no and explained my morals. He then said, okay, I respect that, as he pulled me on top of him and penetrated me. I started saying stop and no, but he didn't listen and didn't stop until I started screaming, and eventually I was able to get off and get away. He texted me the next morning saying that he was sorry for last night.
I went to a party recently and I had gotten through a really rough breakup, so I went with the intention to flirt with someone. I got pretty drunk to the point where things were wobbly, but I could still speak coherently and I had no memory loss. At some point in the night, I ended up sitting on this guy's lap. I had met him once before and he seemed very nice. As the night drew on, Truth or Dare came to be played. I was dared to kiss said boy, which I did. I wasn't really into it, but I never turned down a dare. At the end of the night, he asked me to go back to his car with him. I hesitantly said no because I felt badly, thinking I had led him on all night. He kept asking and I clearly didn't want to go, but we were in front of a lot of people and I didn't want to make a scene, so I said yes. I slept with him that night in his freezing cold car. It was my second time ever sleeping with someone. I didn't want to, but I thought it would maybe make me feel better. It did the exact opposite. It wasn't consensual, and if I weren't drunk at the time, I wouldn't have done it.
It slowly evolved into something that was dangerous.
I have never felt so alone in my life.
I didn't really tell anyone because I wanted to act like it didn't happen.
I'm not gonna lie, I do blame myself a lot.
She silently cried while he did it.
I knew the boys well and felt unsafe reporting it.
It makes me feel very uncomfortable.
I took a really long shower that night and still felt disgusting.
It wasn't consensual, and if I weren't drunk at the time, I wouldn't have done it.
Is this sexual assault? I don't know.